A 15-year-old student in North Carolina allegedly suffered a concussion after a school cop slammed her to the ground. Now, this story is developing, and I want to be clear that at the moment we are unsure of exactly what happened prior to the girl getting slammed. But the 8-second video, of course, went viral online. We do have it for you. It's difficult to watch, but I'm going to show it to you and then give you what few details we do have. Take a look.
Oh, shit!
Okay, so the 15-year-old student was Jasmine Darwin, and her mother says that she suffered a concussion. She was taken to the hospital after that incident. What we know so far is that some sort of fight broke out, and Jasmine's sister was involved. At that point, Jasmine allegedly ran over to see what was going on. I have no idea what happened at that point, and then that's when the cop slammed her to the ground. Now, the school resource officer, Ruben De Los Santos, has been placed on paid administrative leave pending the outcome of an investigation. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that there is no standardized training program or manual for the state school resource officers. A training course offered through the North Carolina Justice Academy, or there is one offered through the North Carolina Justice Academy, but not every school resource officer is required to attend it. And that's according to Michelle Archer, who is the North Carolina Association of School Resources Officers president.
And it has a title that's too long.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
So this is what we always ask for. We ask for a little bit of restraint and to be a little bit careful. She's 100 pounds. So I never want to minimize the frustration that cops or security is under. You ever try to separate two 15-year-old girls who are having a fight? Now, in this case, we don't know for sure that Jasmine was even in the fight. Right?
Yeah.
But I get it. That's a hard situation. When I was in high school, I saw teachers trying to separate people. It's not easy, right? But that cop looks to be significantly above 100 pounds, right? And when you got a 100-pound girl, like, be careful about slamming her down, because the mom's right. Not only does she have a concussion, she could have died. So that's why we're asking you to be careful. And too often it appears like people are not that careful because it's not that important to them. Mm-hmm. Now, it's an 8-second video. Let's let them do an investigation. And maybe the guy, it was just, if you look at his whole record, it was a momentary lapse and he's overall a good cop, right? I don't know. We don't know anything about the guy.
Yeah.
Or if you find out his record is he does this fairly regularly, then that's a huge cause for concern.
Right. The only thing that, only detail that I've learned about him through reports is that he's been working as a school resource officer for 4 years. And that's it. I don't know what his record is. I don't know if there's been any allegations against him in the past. I just think that, just based on what we know, he could have prevented that type of force, right? Like, you're right. She's 100 pounds. She's a lot smaller. I mean, you're a cop, you just break them up.
Break them up.
Right? Like, I'm not saying that it's like the easiest thing in the world, right? I mean, if I saw two girls fighting or however many girls fighting, it's not break them up. It's going to be a little more difficult than that. I understand that, but I feel like it would be much easier to restrain them or more effective to restrain them than to body slam a student onto the floor to the point where they could possibly die. Again, she suffered a concussion. That's serious.
I like fairness. Jake was talking about fairness. Who knows what his record is, what he's done, how many times he's been doing this. Maybe he's not always the bad guy. You're right. Cool. We've all seen fights in high school.
Yes.
We've seen 100 of them. They don't check the record of the kid who's in the fight and say, well, how many times has he done this? If she's been in this her first fight, or even who knows what level, we don't know where in the fight she was involved. They don't go, well, it's only her second fight, and she's a sophomore now. So 1 a year is okay. We'll let her off the hook. There's no leniency. There's no chances. This guy whatever punishment there should come to him, fine. I'm not saying he should be fired, never be working in the police office again, but he should get whatever full level of responsibility befalls him. And everyone has their jobs and everyone has their responsibilities. You have to pay for whatever you do when you do it wrong.
I just think that the training thing is the biggest problem, right? Really? There's no standardized training for school resource officers? So let's militarize the police force. Let's militarize school campuses as much as possible. Put all these cops. By the way, yeah, there were a ton of fights when I was in high school, when I was in middle school. And you know what? in the vast majority of cases, actually in all cases, we didn't have campus police. You know who broke up the fight? Teachers, okay? Administrators. And you know what they did? Just break them up. Break them up. There was no body slamming, okay? There were no chokeholds, nothing crazy like that. I mean...
So just last two things here. We all survived that era, okay? So it's possible to survive it without cops or school resource officers swarming the campus. A more common problem is kids getting arrested, because if you put officers in a school, what are they going to do? They're going to want to do something, right? And I'm not blaming them for it. You put them there, so they're going to police the school, and then next thing you know, a lot more kids are getting arrested. Whereas we had fights all the time, but I lived in a suburb, so nobody ever got arrested, right? So now, and in this case, that's not the issue. The other issue is now you got a cop, and he's, again, an officer, and he's used to some degree of force, whereas the teacher is maybe a little bit more cautious, right? And instead we have, you know, the general attitude and culture, unfortunately, in the country of officers, which is enforce authority, right? And you enforce authority. And look, guys, always shoe on the other foot. If I'm that officer, it's a hard job to do to split them up. But if I'm that girl's dad, and I just saw somebody body slam my 100-year-old daughter.
100-pound daughter.
I'm sorry. Well, that would be an interesting one, wouldn't it? Okay, I'd be like, thank God I'm still alive. Okay, 100-pound daughter. Imagine how mad you'd be if somebody slammed your 100-pound daughter, right? So take it easy. Now, super last thing is, JR makes a really interesting point. When it comes to the kids, we do zero tolerance. We do it all the time. You bring the wrong kind of knife to lunch, gone, right? Oh my God, if you ever smoke weed, gone, right? Anything, you draw the wrong cartoon, gone, zero tolerance. How come nobody ever suggests zero tolerance for cops? Like if you say to, hey, if a cop does something wrong, he should be gone, zero tolerance. People are like, no, what do you think? Got a hard job. No, we should, we shouldn't even try them. We should acquit them if at all possible. They should have 1,000 chances.
Public opinion has something to do with it, I think. But also, look, cops have the protection of unions, right? Kids don't.
Yeah, that's it. We need a kids union.
Animals are innocent.
TRTnetwork.com/join.